everyone! Today I've got a tutorial for you on how I am turning my wooden block rubber stamps into cling mount stamps. I've seen several tutorials on YouTube. There are others out there, and so I'm just offering this example of how I do it. And I did get a lot of insight from those other tutorials, and this is how it works for me. So I'm sharing it with you today. You're going to need a few supplies, such as some of this. I like to use this Easy Mount cling foam. Something to remember on this, for the method that I am using, you're going to want yes, this side is the cling side, the gray. I mistakenly purchased black and had to return it because the way I'm doing it, I like to be able to have the image. So I'm going to be stamping the image onto the gray first, and when it was black I couldn't do that. So make sure it's gray for this method. You're also going to need a permanent ink, such as Archival, which is what I'll be using today, but I've also used StazOn. And if you have the permanent ink, you're probably going to want something to remove it with, clean it with. You're going to want some stick-resistant shears if you have them. You can use regular scissors, but this is very sticky, so it'll get sticky. You'll need to clean them afterwards. These are great Tim Holtz tonic shears because they're easy to clean afterwards. You might be able to see all this residue because I haven't cleaned them, but they are easy to clean off. I just haven't done it yet. And what else? Oh, you may need a heat source. Some people have used the microwave. I just use the heat gun for 10 seconds or so on the rubber stamp, but for a lot of mine I haven't even needed the heat source because my wooden block stamps are probably close to 10 years old, a lot of them, and they've come off very easily and without a whole lot of effort, the rubber part. So the first step, before you remove the rubber from the wood block, you're going to want to ink up your stamp. Let's move this out of the way. We'll pick a stamp here. I do the inking beforehand because I feel like it's easier to get a good stamped image when it has something still solid. Some people will just use the rubber, and you can do that, but for me it's easier. So you ink up the stamp out of the way, and very carefully press down onto, make sure it's the cling side of the foam. The other side's super sticky. The cling side, you're going to stamp your image right on, lift, set that aside. Actually, I am going to clean it first because I'm going to be taking the rubber off in just a moment, and I don't want that all over my fingers. So put a little bit of cleaner on. I'm probably out of frame doing this, scrub, but hey look, I'm going to get the rest of that off here and set that aside. So we've got our stamped image. That was step one. Next, you'll need to cut out the image. You're going to want to cut close, but not too close. Attention to accuracy will help you when you're mounting the rubber onto the cling foam. So first I'm just going to cut it out, and then I'll trim it closer, but not too close. There we go. And straight lines, and be careful, this is probably not dry yet, so be careful not to touch the ink because it does take a little longer to dry. So straight cuts are usually easier on this real sticky stuff. So I'm going to get as close to the image without going too close because you're going to want something for your rubber to adhere to. I'm going to trim that corner off. Get in here. I'm a little quieter when I'm concentrating. It's hard to talk and do at the same time. Oops, I don't know, that might be a little too close, but hey, it'll be good to show you what not to do if it is too close. Okay, this sticky stuff is a little bit annoying. You don't want to see me doing that, do you? Get off camera for that. So, now we're going to go ahead, set this aside, and remove the rubber. Let's see if this one cooperates. Okay, so it's coming off pretty easily. If it were not to come off, I would just, for 10 seconds, try it again. Don't heat your fingers. You could get a burn. So some of it is still on there, but this is easily rubbed right off, which is what I'm going to do. And that's why I wanted to clean it first, because I will wash my hands afterwards. Because I don't want all that permanent ink on my fingers. There, it makes a mess, but all crafting seems to make a mess. We've got our rubber. Next step will be to adhere it to the sticky side of our foam. So let's take this backing off. Now this, you gotta be real careful because it is super sticky. Setting it down. So, whoops, I almost did that backwards. This is the part where my little birdie is on top of the jar there. So I'm going to carefully place it as close to accurate as I am able. Some of my rubber is sticking out, and I find that happens a lot when I'm doing these. But, you know, I like to kind of go in and trim. I would only suggest you do what you're comfortable with, because it would be a shame if you trimmed off some of that lovely image. So, risk versus reward. Be careful. Do what you're comfortable with. Not more, because there's always a risk. Now, this is not perfect. So I definitely would advise you to start with that, or do not start with your most favorite stamps. Start with, you know, the ones you don't mind if they're not perfect. And as you go along, usually you get better at it. And some of mine are just better than others. I guess you'll have to see. But for me, it's definitely worth the risk because I don't have a lot of craft space. And to have a little more space to craft in and not store giant wood blocks, it's amazing the difference it makes when you put these onto cling foam. It's so much smaller. Here's what I had before. Here's what I have now. And I've been putting them, here's one I did earlier. Reach over here. This is actually the back of the plastic from one of the boxes that the wood came in, but I also had bought some thick acrylic sheets. I just slip them into, what are those called? Sheet protectors. And so I have a binder. And instead of a closet organizer full of these blocks, I have a little binder full. So it is amazing how much space you can save if you put them onto cling mount foam. There's a bit of an expense to it, but for me, again, it was worth it to have that space back in the crafting area, because I just don't have a huge craft room. I've got a desk. Anyway, and I'm very thankful for that desk. I hope you all enjoy this version of my turning wood blocks into cling mount stamps, and have a great day. Thank you for watching. Bye.